Hello and welcome. I'm Julia, and today's topic is GMAT reading comprehension. Specifically, I'm going to discuss structure questions. Structure questions in reading comp are similar to method of reasoning questions in critical reasoning, but they cover more material. That might sound intimidating, but it's actually not too bad. In shorter critical reasoning questions, every part must be carefully considered because there aren't as many. When assessing structure in reading comp, while every sentence plays an important part, there's more room for patterns to emerge, and that can make them easier to understand and make the structure easier to figure out. Here's my helpful tip on passage structure. The GMAT is not presenting you with Vonnegut-style prose. Every passage that you will be tested on was designed for the test, and it will be organized in a clear way. It will feature sentences that each play a clear role, and those sentences will make up paragraphs that have defined relationships to each other and to the passage as a whole. It's good to understand how these passage components interrelate because questions on structure and organization may cover the whole passage or only part of it. There are a finite number of passage structures that most of the reading comp passages you encounter will adhere to, so it's worth getting familiar with them and saving yourself some time later on. Let's look at the most common structures that these passages love to employ. The first is the passage may present multiple views on a topic and then either compare and contrast the views, reconcile the views, or state the author's own view. The second is that the passage presents a common view or myth. This is called the myth structure. And then it will challenge the view, question the view, or even just discuss the common view. The third is that the passage will present multiple methods or strategies and then state one or more conclusions about the methods or strategies it discussed. The fourth is that the passage may outline an experiment and then present the results of the experiment and either discuss the results or state a conclusion based on them. The fifth common structure is very easy to recognize because the passage will present a question and then it will explore information that helps with answering the question it brought up. The sixth involves a passage presenting a set of historical developments and states a view that the author has about those developments. And the seventh will present one or more innovations, products, or phenomena. And then it will describe associated effects, associated or connected events, or consequences of the innovations, products, or phenomena. Let's look at an example so that we can see the sort of questions we need to be asking ourselves while we're reading these passages. Let's say we have a passage about e-commerce and it's laid out like this. The first paragraph offers a brief history of e-commerce and its relationship with traditional retail structure. The second paragraph lays out some challenges presented by the growth of e-commerce to traditional retail, such as declining foot traffic or increased competition from readily available alternatives. The third paragraph suggests some adaptation strategies that retailers could try. And the fourth paragraph states a conclusion about how e-commerce has significantly changed consumer behavior and adaptability is critical for stores that want to survive. Here are some things that we would look for while reading a passage like this. 1, why has the author written it? What is the main idea? What is their purpose for writing this passage at all? Since the author is making an argument, how strong is their conviction in the argument that adaptability is critical? What is the evidence that they use to support it? How compelling is the evidence? And in this case, what is the structure, either holistically, the structure of the whole passage, or internally, the relationship between the parts? So in this case, it introduces an innovation, discusses some consequences of the innovation for a pre-existing structure, traditional retail model, offers some potential solutions, and finally reiterates that the innovation has significantly altered the consumer landscape and ignoring these changes is not an option. How about the internal structure? What if we were asked about the relationship between paragraph 3 and paragraph 2? Then the answer could be something like paragraph 3 addresses issues introduced in paragraph 2, or that paragraph 3 offers suggestions for the challenges presented in paragraph 2. How about a slightly different example? Let's say we have a passage about genetic engineering, and it's laid out this way. Paragraph 1 defines genetic engineering and introduces some potential applications. Paragraph 2 makes a case for genetic engineering and the potential it offers for medical and scientific advancement. Paragraph 3 explores ethical and social concerns associated with genetic engineering, including the risk of unexpected consequences or the moral dilemmas that might arise. And the last paragraph, the author considers the merits of both views and comes to a conclusion of their own about proceeding cautiously with ethical considerations in mind. For this example, we could ask ourselves, what is the simple story of the passage? You will always ask yourself that. Because the author is considering multiple views and coming to their own conclusion, is there anything surprising about the topic or either of the two positions, especially from the author's perspective? Did the author seem surprised, or did they start from one stance and get swayed in any direction, either further into their own stance or away from their original stance? Anything like that? Again, as we're talking about multiple opinions, do they agree or disagree? That is a very important thing to notice anytime you have multiple opinions coming up. And who does the author agree with, if anyone? And was the evidence offered by either side more or less compelling? That can give us some insight as to the evidence the author chose to include and perhaps why they did so. What is the structure of a passage like this? Well, it presents multiple views on a topic clearly, and then a conclusion is stated. So anything that resembles that would be a good summation of this passage. As you read through passages, you'll be assessing the information, constructing your simple story to summarize the main idea, and analyzing the structure all at the same time. These aren't extra steps from a time standpoint, but from a comprehension standpoint. You'll become a much more efficient reader as you practice analyzing passages, so don't let yourself get discouraged and keep up the good work.